Welcome to Politically Basic. I'm your host, Kyle Campbell. As we always do, we're breaking down the basics of all political issues so that you get to decide. This week on Politically Basic, we get to hear from Daniel Baldwin. Yes, one of those Baldwins. From 90s TV fame to award-winning documentaries, his story is raw, real, and way deeper than Hollywood drama. He opens up about his fascinating and uniquely influenced emerging views on political issues, his personal battles, the turning point that changed everything, and why he's more fired up than ever about what's happening in our country right now. Daniel, thank you so much for coming on the show with me today.
Thanks for having me on. I'm a big fan of your show.
You're so wonderful. Okay, I am really fascinated to hear from you, your life journey, your life story, your faith, your family. You have so much influencing your perspective, and I want to hear all about it. So can we jump right in?
Yeah, let's go.
Okay, let's go. I want to hear all about you, but first, right off the bat, this is Politically Basic. So give us your take on the 2025 political scene.
Well, I was a devout, born-again Democrat. You know, my father was hardcore Democrat. Two brothers of the three, my three acting brothers and myself, two of them were the head of the Creative Coalition. I backed Obama. I backed everybody up until the first Trump running in 2016. When I started to notice, does the Democratic Party still reflect what I feel morally, and where are they going where I think we need to go as a nation? And I'll tell you what, the original thing that won me over, I'll never forget it, was North Korea had just proven that they had missiles, and they had the intercontinental missiles that could reach the west coast of California. And they tried to catch Trump, the reporters who didn't like him and they didn't take him seriously. Neither did Hillary or anybody else in 2016. They didn't think he could win. I knew Donald. I'd worked with him. I'd worked for him. Like everybody on The View and many Americans, I liked Donald Trump. Before he started to run for president, that's when they all turned their back on him and they decided they didn't like him anymore. So they asked the question, what do you plan on doing about the North Koreans being able to reach our coast now with intercontinental missiles? And he went, why would I do anything? And they said, well, you need to know that nuclear. He went, listen, I grew up in Queens. And if you had a problem with a guy up in the Bronx on 125th Street, 150th Street, whatever it was, you looked for who you knew that lived in that street or lived as close to him as you could. And you called your friend and you asked them, hey, what's the problem with your guy on 125th? Straighten it out. And I thought about that for a minute. And then he went on to say, you tell China to park 500,000 troops on the northern border of North Korea, and China will tell them to straighten it out because China is very dependent on our dollars and China's growth economically, and China needs America. Why would I risk American lives when I could call our friends in China and I could put pressure on them to shut North Korea up and shut them down? And I went, amen. That's exactly what we would have done on Long Island. I'd have called a cousin or somebody I knew that knew the guy, and I say, what's the problem? Simmer down, or whatever I had to do. He thinks things differently than regular politicians because he's not a career politician. He's not owing anybody anything. He looks at it very, very differently. And I've never seen a president ever, and I've been around since Kennedy, so I've never seen a president come out and do exactly what he said and campaigned saying he was going to do come day one. He walks in, he doesn't care what you think, and he does what he says. Look at the border. Look at so I have changed. I am now, and openly admit it, even though I'm a Hollywood person, that I'm a Republican. I don't get hired as often. I don't get a look from people that run TV networks and that do those kinds of things. I'm 64 years old, newly married a few years ago with a baby. So I could use those things that I used to be able to depend on when I sucked up to what they believe. But I don't believe what they believe. I won't move back to LA. I'll never live there again. This is who I am now, and it's cost me a lot of relationships, and it's cost me relationships in my own family. But I don't apologize for any of it. I like where we're heading and the direction we're going in right now. And I think you're about to see a scandal come out about former President Obama, that they made up the entire thing about the Russia gate, the whole influence in the 2016 election. It was all made up.
Mm.
I said thing on a show recently where I said, when I did a sitcom years ago, back in the 80s or late 80s, early 90s with Valerie Bertinelli, who was married to Eddie Van Halen at the time. And I'd never done a sitcom before. And they'd come in the room and they'd sit with you and you would read the script and you could tell who wrote what joke of the writers. Because as soon as you said, and then I told her, no way, and hear one guy go, ah, ha, 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 and start laughing because he wrote that joke. So we do the read through. And then every day a new script would come and they would refine it. They would touch it up. They would punch it up. They would do, until Friday, the audience came in and you delivered the show live with the cameras rolling. Well, I think there's literally rooms in Hollywood, rather in Washington, where they sit there and they say, Obama recently said, if you just keep pelting it and throwing crap at it and telling the story and the story that you want America to hear, even if it's not true, you just keep saying, and after a while, it just starts to stick. Trump has 94 counts. He's found guilty in New York, 94, felonies, felony, Trump, first standing president, first president ever, got elected with felonies. Has anyone taken a look at what Trump was found guilty of?
Right.
I'm selling my apartment. I'm asking 200 million. They're offering 100 million. And we bring somebody in from the bank to ask what they are assessing the value of, and they say the value is 150 million. You're under, you're over. We're going to prosecute you for fraud, for trying to pass on to the bank the value of your property. Everybody asks for more money than their property's worth. They know they're going to have to negotiate. He didn't sell it to someone saying that it was worth 200 and they paid 200 because he said it. He asked for 200. Can you imagine what would happen to the New York City real estate? Look at the shows that you watch, the shows on TV, whatever the name of the hot real estate show is. They're always asking, well, he wants 200 million, but they're probably going to get around. What will you take? So this is a cornerstone to negotiation in real estate, and this is what they were able to pin on the president. I'm concerned, to tell you the truth, about how long we can sustain the lies. And let me tell you one last quick story to tell you what I mean by that. When I sat with my father in the late 1960s that I can remember, and through the 1970s, there was an anchorman named Walter Cronkite. And Cronkite was really the cornerstone. He was the mark that everyone measured themselves against. I believe, make sure I say this right. Anytime Cronkite opened his mouth, I believe that he believed he was telling you the truth. I don't think he ever had an agenda and misled anyone. He was reporting the news. He was telling you what he really thought was going on in Vietnam, some rioting, protests, all of that. He was trying to tell you what he believed was taking place in America and around the world at that time. I no longer believe that to be true. I don't believe that to be true. I will identify CNN with the Democratic Party. I will identify Fox with the Republican Party. There's many more, I think, that kind of lean to the left as opposed to the right. But that is all purchased, paid for advertising with the same group of men that write down the sitcom jokes, sit in a room and say, how much shit can we throw at the president? How much stuff can we throw at this congressman, at this senator, at Ron DeSantis, at this one or that one? They do. They pay them and they sit in a room and they bombard through their friends in the media and they get their stuff put out at the Washington Post, at the New York Times, at whatever it is. And again, I'm not saying the Republicans don't play this game too, but I have never seen anything like the onslaught that is put against this man that's president right now. I've never seen anything like it, ever. And it's changed the way it's going to be done.
I will agree with you 1000% on everything that you just said. And I wanted, before I dive into all of those incredible pieces of information and opinion that you just offered us, Daniel, just affirm your courage, right? You are coming from a very influential, really powerful, well-known Hollywood family, and to be able to think independently and really put a lot of things at risk to speak the truth, not just your truth, but the truth, and be able to stand firm in what you believe is right and true. That takes guts, and you've got a lot of them, sir. So I just want to affirm you in that, and I think it gives people strength too. I mean, you're really leading in a way here, because we're in this time now where, aren't we coming out of this season of such blind allegiance to political parties? And I mean that on both sides. And this last presidential election really ripped the covers off of a lot of things that were happening, and people just said, we're not gonna just blindly believe these things that the parties are telling us anymore. What's happening coming out about Obama and this manufactured, and it truly was manufactured, Russiagate, Russian influence story about that's how Donald Trump won the 2016 presidency. Don't you think that people knew, but even though they knew or they suspected, when we see the evidence, when we see that, okay, now we have documentation, we have emails, it's just one more quote unquote conspiracy theory that has come to light. And you're so right that the media was so complicit. The left-leaning, left supporting media was so complicit in that. And this is just one of many, right? This one isn't unique to our political landscape and political history over the last couple of presidential election cycles. There are questions about what really truly happened on January 6th. There are questions about what happened in the documents trial with Trump and the felony counts there, what happened at Mar-a-Lago and what he took from the White House. And again, there was the media every single time just ready to back up. So what do you think, though, my question for you now is, what do you anticipate will actually happen now that this information and the Director of National Intelligence, Tulsi Gabbard, has brought out this information about how Obama sat his people down and said, okay, we don't have the credible information. How do we get from A to Z here? What do you think is going to happen?
Well, here's, we talk about the last couple of presidencies. There was a guy who was sitting in an open Lincoln Continental, taking a slow turn in Dealey Plaza in 1963. And they wanted us with a Warren Commission, a commission of famous, Gerald Ford, Earl Warren, some very reputable people. And they threw a perfect, pristine condition bullet onto the cot just to add insult to injury. And they said, that's the bullet that went through his throat, Connolly's wrist, made a left-hand turn, stopped at the Steak and Shake in order to shake, came back, and then landed in this cot, came out of his body, whatever. After they shot cadaver after cadaver just in the wrist, and it just destroyed the bullet. The whole front head was flat. So we know that Oswald could not have shot that Italian bolt-action rifle as an amateur shooter through the trees while the object was moving and made 2 hits. It was impossible. His brains flew back into the left, the whole bit. So we go on. So we know. And yet, even at that time, they got the American people to believe. Look at some other things that have happened, throughout. Look at Watergate. Look at this. I mean, just... it goes on and on and on. So the answer is, we're going to allow these terrible injustices to happen. We're going to allow them to happen. Look at the Twin Towers. Yeah. Look at the perfect dropping of those 2 buildings, the explosions in slow motion that you see before they're falling 2, 3, 4 floors, the shooting out of the plaster. Oh, that was the pressure of it coming. Oh, bullshit! It was the pressure of it coming down. That was controlled dropping of the building. That's what that was. And so, but again, we're even when they see photographic proof, even when we spell it out to you and say, America will sit back and they will take what's given to them, what falls off that plate, and what it is that dribble, as long as their guys are winning. You kind of want to cheer for the other team. So instead of sitting down and saying what you believe are the reasons why you should be elected, what you believe the reasons why our country should go in a certain direction, we just hammer the other side and say all the terrible stuff about them. We don't even talk anymore. I got this sheet. And this is called the 20 Reasons Not to Vote for Hillary Clinton. Benghazi, Travelgate, Vince Foster's death, Hillary Care, as a senator, chronic habitual liar, Whitewater investigation, Clinton legal defense fund, and it goes on and on and on. Now, these are things that are proven that she testified to. And she was running for president of the United States against Trump in 2016. She was running for president. And this woman has been involved in some really scary stuff. I mean, she really has. And yet, you know what? just about half the country was ready to vote for her and put her into office. I mean, it was a close election. Had she tightened up, so the answer is, are we going to do anything about Obama? If it comes out and they writing on the wall, emails that came from him, witnesses that say, are they going to do anything? What are they going to do about it? Are they going to lock him up? Are you going to put Barack Obama in jail? If we prove that Barack Obama is some type of CIA agent that they placed him in the presidency for whatever the reasons are that they did it. If we prove that, all these things, if you prove that his wife was really a man, if you prove that, all these, some of them outrageous things. But again, I'm not sure what any of it means or what America would do about it anymore, because we don't do anything about the ones that we've already proven are impossible.
Right.
We don't do anything about them. So I'm not confident that anything would happen to him at all. I'm not. And he's the most powerful Democrat in the country still right now, Barack Obama. I mean, the fact that they banked on Kamala Harris, really? That was, I mean, listen, that think tank room I talked about, that room that they sit there and they write this stuff, everyone in that room that said, hey, I got an idea, why don't we just run Kamala Harris, should be shot today. Because you really wanted us to believe that this was the person that was going to get elected. I mean, and the reasons really were because they had all that money, that treasure chest of money that was saved for Biden. And the only way to transfer that money is if Biden's running mate ran. If not, they would have had to give all that money back, and they knew it. So they decided to run with her. But what a terrible choice. And it cost them the election. They could have run another Barack Obama, another John F. Kennedy, an unknown Democrat, and built him up to make him whatever they wanted to. But they ran her, and guess what? They got their pants pulled down right in public. So I'm happy for that.
Well, it was interesting. It was almost a referendum on their influence, because they thought they could take someone who had never really been voted for, who was never popular, who the people never wanted, and that their influence would swing it for Kamala Harris. And of course, it was just an absolute circus of multiple mistakes every day that campaign made, and they couldn't get on top of that. But isn't that remarkable that they thought that was going to work? And in 2016, you talk about all the mountain of evidence of criminal activity, really questionable, at the very least, questionably ethical behavior from the Clintons and Hillary Clinton as a candidate. And yet people just were thinking and believing that anyone, even to that level, was better than Donald Trump. Our elections have kind of gone that way since then. It doesn't matter. They'll find a justification, right? They'll find a justification to try to put Trump in jail. And so as we look to see what's going to happen to Barack Obama, and I agree with you, I don't think anything's going to happen because he is powerful. He is still liked and popular, but also that would be crossing some kind of other threshold, I think, that in people's minds would go further even than jailing a Donald Trump, who so many people wanted to see that happen. And it's got to bring us to talking about the Epstein files. Now, do you think that the Epstein client list and the files are a quote-unquote hoax? Or do you think that they exist, and for reasons beyond our clearance level and understanding, we are just not going to know that?
I know exactly what happened. Do you want to know?
I certainly do. Please. Oh my gosh. Thank God for Daniel Baldwin right now. Let's go.
Let me tell you exactly what happened. Exactly. Because this is the way the game is played. So, my brother's name is on that list. Do I think for 1 minute, his name is on that list? There has been, they've used supposed flight information, because you have to register the people that are on the planes.
The flight
logs.
There's
flight logs. Yeah. So his name appears on flight logs, supposedly. I haven't asked him whether he went over to this island or not, but I can tell you this, knowing him for 64 years, if my brother, now I've had the Sultan of Brunei, I've had the Prince of Nigeria, I've had, Lord March at Goodwood, the monarchy in England, from world leaders all over the place, Nayib Bukele in El Salvador, and I visited their White Houses or their palaces or whatever, many other world leaders. And so I'm out with Charlie Sheen, it's 1992 or 3, and we meet the Prince of Nigeria. And he says, I'll send a plane, come pick you guys up. You guys got to come to Nigeria. You got to see my country. We're out for a couple of nights with this guy, great guy. So they send the plane. Now, had I landed and I didn't go, I ended up not going. I think Charlie did. But had I gone, and this is my example of P. Diddy, my example of the island. You're not going there that someone's saying, come there, there's 13-year-old girls that you can have sex with. They're telling you that this guy's got the biggest apartment in New York City. He's a gazillionaire. He's got a jet. He's taking you. And the list of people that are going to be at the event are a who's who. Bill Clinton, this one, that one. Do you get on that plane? Of course you get on that plane and go have fun for the weekend. So you go land there and have no idea what's going on. Now you start to see some stuff that might be going on that looks a little fishy, which tells you you're never getting on the plane again. You make sure you don't participate in any of it. But now here's the thing. Originally, when the story broke, he was having people come. He was luring them into private rooms with underage women or boys, whatever was going on there. And let me get back to and say, there is not a single chance that my brother went there and had sex with some underage girl. He would never do that. But for some people, this is some weird, freaky fetish. They do these things. There's been, lots of rumors about former presidents that were involved and so on. And I will just say this. He filmed it. It was said, if you forget, everyone, he had video of this. Why do you think they frantically went through his stuff? Why do you think they were? Now, if you're somebody who is potentially working for Israel, working for the CIA, and you want to own a president, you want to own a political figure, you want to own a huge billionaire industrialist, you want to get film of him and a little boy and own that, and you own that guy for sure. Now, take it one step further, because this is the part that people don't seem to catch. You're at Rikers Island, you're in your cell, and 1 minute out of every day, conveniently, the tape goes blank and it's blah, blah, all this bullshit. That doesn't happen on Rikers Island. It may now, they make it the norm, but no. Jeffrey Epstein would have had video. Jeffrey Epstein would have had video of some of the most powerful, Prince Andrew, some of the most powerful men on the planet. Where's those videos? You don't think Jeffrey Epstein is smart enough to have kept copies of videos and stored in some vault at a legal, somewhere? Of course he did, which is why Jeffrey Epstein isn't dead. Jeffrey Epstein didn't die. Jeffrey Epstein wasn't killed. Jeffrey Epstein is somewhere in the mountains of Honduras or in Lebanon or in some place where he's being kept because they can't afford to kill him. If they killed him, someone would release the tapes. Jeffrey Epstein isn't dead. They hid that thing and they did the violence and they want you to believe that agents rushed in there and hung him and killed him and made it look like a suicide. Why? They want you to think he's dead. Jeffrey Epstein isn't dead. Jeffrey Epstein would crush so many people. The people that have the rights to his stuff would release those tapes. And guess what? There's a highly probable case to be made that Bill Clinton or this one or that one, and I'm not saying I know Bill Clinton did something, but Monica Lewinsky, there could be Lewinsky, some tapes of Bill Clinton on this island that he didn't know were being taken, that made him one of their puppies, that made him have to do things that they want done in Israel or in whatever God-forsaken place that they could control a U.S. president. I'm just telling you right now, there is no shot that guy was killed. No shot.
Yeah.
He's absolutely alive. That's what I believe.
This is mind-blowing, but at the same time, it makes perfect sense. And the whole minute missing from the surveillance video, I mean, also, no one can get anything done in a minute. I've never personally strangled anyone to death, broken into a cell and killed anyone, but I would imagine a minute's not gonna cut it. Number one. Number two,
could you walk a guy out the cell? Could you open the door, walk a guy out, and close the door?
That makes way more sense.
You bet
you could run him down that. There's some AI video circulating that's what it was, that he's running down the hallway. But and these prison systems, the cell door might not be the only option. I don't know. Again, I haven't been in that system. But when you get to this level of operation, let's call it, Ghislaine Maxwell has a submarine operation. This is not just, oh, shoot, we got busted. Here's my safe that you can break into. Here are my files. And oh, shucks, I got caught. No, this is complex. It is buried under multiple layers of security with different people. I think you're absolutely right. That makes so much more sense than anything anyone else is saying. And I appreciate that you're being honest about your brother, because the other thing too is, flight logs do not equate to sexually assaulting or abusing underage children. You can people use other people's planes often for all kinds of things. I mean, one of my family businesses is aviation. You lend planes. Donald Trump's planes are used by other people. So you can't say, hey, this person flew on one of Jeffrey Epstein's planes, therefore he must have gone to Lolita Island, therefore he must have engaged in, sexual activity with an underage child. That those don't connect always. Those dots don't connect. But I think you're absolutely right. It's amazing. One of the problems that now has been born out of this is Donald Trump's appeal to the American vote is his authenticity, his kind of brutal honesty, transparency, and saying, sure, I'm going to, show you these things. I'm going to let you in on these things. We're going to declassify files. You're going to see the MLK Jr. stuff. You're going to see the JFK, files. And when the Epstein files circulated around his administration, a lot of people believed that they were going to get information. And now it seems like that door has been kind of slammed shut in the American public's face. So when we're talking conspiracy theories, Daniel, what do you think? Do you think that the trust that the American people now have in our Department of Justice, or just in administration in general, is just too broken to go forward here? It's mightily frustrating for people, I would say. How do we believe anything coming out of an administration anymore?
Yeah, that's a tough one. Musk just turned around and said he may come out with a third party. He's looking into it to challenge. I think that, the closest thing we saw to anything in my lifetime was Ross Perot. And when he ran as an independent, which was a major FU to Bush Sr., because they didn't like each other back in their Texas oil days. So Perot decided to make sure by taking enough votes away from Bush, he couldn't win the election, which is exactly what occurred. But I don't think Ross ever thought he was going to win. And I think a third party in this. Now, mind you, there's one if. I've said there's one if for this, and that is if you could break out a scandal that just really ostracized one of the two parties. Like if this goes Obama, yes, they did it. Yes, they're liars. And then people start lining up, talking about what really happened. Like there's a lot of stuff under Biden in particular. I'm not sure how much under Obama, but there's also still the COVID problem. And that money, that seed money that was signed for by Obama that went to Wuhan, they developed now. If they can prove that the Democrats and Biden knew that the vaccine was BS, that was crap, and that Fauci and those guys were all into it, and they launched the entire COVID thing for profit, that would change the electoral forever. Mm-hmm. That would leave the door open. But it's going to take a major, you killed, this is Auschwitz now. We're talking about, the Holocaust, that kind of thing. You killed millions of people. You allowed the disease to get out. You created a vaccine that we're going to see the ramifications for the next 50 years. And if that was all for profit, which there's some people that are theorizing the whole thing was BS, that Fauci was given a blanket pardon, auto-penned by Biden before anyone accused him of anything. I've never heard of such a thing.
Yeah, that doesn't happen. That's very abnormal.
He gave him a pardon he's not accused of anything yet. But you know what? They knew what was going on. So, and I predicted too on my show that Joe Biden wouldn't be here beyond the second year of Trump's administration. And sadly, I think he's pretty sick. I think they hid that whole thing too. How much did they know about his? They knew within a year. I mean, certainly Jill Biden, his wife, sat there and just watched this guy falling apart, and the press and everybody reported on it saying he's just in tip-top shape, sharp as a tack, he's this, he's that, and he wasn't. He was very sick. Kamala knew that. She hid it. So again, there's such a wave of dishonesty. What if she wanted to be president and they wanted to do? They should have dropped him out before he started running and made her president under the basis and let us see what she could do for a year or two. But no, they lied. So there's so much lying. I don't know the answer to your question. I would like to think that we could try to clean the slate. I think we're dealing with a J.D. Vance for the Republicans. And what does 4 to 8 years of J.D. Vance after Trump look like? Then there's been rumors that Vance would take Trump as his vice president.
Right.
So that, which is crazy to think about, but it's totally legal.
Yeah, it's really interesting to kind of theorize about what's going to happen here. Politics is so fascinating now, and don't you love having a show and just talking about all of these things? I really appreciate your perspective, particularly on all of this. You know, the Bidens moved just next door to my community here. I've seen the motorcade. It involves an ambulance or two, which I know is normal for a sitting president, but boy, I think that he is in bad shape. And yeah, his wife has a lot to answer for. They're bringing in all of these people to testify about the auto pen, and just one after the other, they're pleading the fifth. It looks so bad. The optics are just a nightmare.
Did they count? Should the pardons count that were auto penned?
Listen, that's the question. That's the $1 million question. If you want my personal opinion, I don't think so. But there's no evidence that he knew. So if they source some evidence, an email, a directive, someone who will actually testify saying, I heard the words come out of his mouth, we had the conversation, but they're pleading the fifth, and it just seems to put the last nail in the coffin that someone else was in charge for a very long time. So no, I don't think they should count. But if Fauci didn't do anything, and if Hunter didn't do anything, they don't have anything. They're home free. They don't have anything to worry about, right?
Let me say something. So I'm given presidential powers on the president, and the whole thing happens with Hunter. I'm a human being. Yeah. I'm a dad. I get that one. I do. I get that one. I have the power to make sure that my kid isn't prosecuted and they don't beat him up, because if he wasn't the president's son, he'd got slapped on the wrist anyway on his first charge. So I get that one. But if you're going to do a blanket pardon on a guy that's responsible for the death of millions of people, yeah, no, there's no, and you didn't sign it yourself. It was done by an auto pen. No, man, I got a problem with that. Yeah, I do.
I think a lot of people agree with you there. A lot of Americans, a majority of Americans agree with you. And I think the thing with Hunter, too, is you can understand why he did it. The fact that he said that he wouldn't so many times prior to making that decision also, again, just continued to break trust with people. He could have said, look, I'm not sure yet, or this is a tough one for me, or what. People would have absolutely understood. So we'll see. That's going to be a really interesting one to follow. Another interesting one, while I've got you, Daniel, is I want to bring it back to Hollywood. You're so intimately familiar with Hollywood, film and TV, and even the music industry. Now, we've just had Diddy, and the country has watched, I think the world has watched in grossed out horror at hearing about what he's been up to and how he sort of was this gatekeeper into success in the music industry. And again, it didn't go as well for the prosecution as they had hoped, trying to get him on RICO charges. That's difficult. Trying to get him on sex trafficking, human trafficking charges is highly difficult to prove. He is guilty on counts of transportation to illicit prostitution. He hasn't been sentenced yet, and a lot of people think that he'll just, again, slap on the wrist, kind of time served. Do you think this has had any kind of ripple effect on the music industry and maybe on the outer rung of that, Hollywood, in any way? Or are people just going to kind of look at it like, well, he's a big old weirdo and he's going to keep doing his thing, and it really hasn't made a difference in the industries?
Well, I'm going to say that OJ, that Rodney King, that a lot of these things are distractions. I predicted that he wouldn't be found guilty of any of the major crimes. And to be very honest with you, I'm about to make a prediction on your show that will come true. And one of the things I'll say is, I think Trump probably would have pardoned Diddy if they found him guilty of any major ones. I think he might have. Because I think at the end of the day, to believe that there were people that went in there and didn't really know what they were doing. And, oh, I didn't understand and I was afraid of him. I don't know. I think there was a lot of freaks involved that just like doing freaky stuff, and they looked at a way that they could make money. Do I think that Diddy trafficked underage girls? I don't know. I wasn't there. I was never involved in any of that stuff. I would like to think that he wouldn't do that. If he did and he got away with it, well, God will get him. Karma will get him. But here's one for you: if this thing gets pursued, and the evidence is so overwhelming that Barack Obama did something illegal, that charges are filed, even if he's found guilty, Trump will pardon him. Trump will pardon Barack Obama as a class move at the last minute to save a US president from going to prison. He will. So even if this happens over the course of the next 3.5 years and it starts to really blow up and Trump will pardon him, watch.
I will watch, and then I want you to come back on the show. I'm not done with you yet, but I want you to
go.
come back
I'm
on
good.
the show and keep talking about these things, because your insight is just really, really sharp, and I think it's spot on. And now I'm, of course, thoroughly fascinated to see what happens, but I think that's a really smart take on that. I want to talk to you now as a person of faith.
Yes.
Because that is the most important thing in any of our lives. You again, you've taken a really bold step, being who you are and having the history, the life that you've had, the work that you've had. Tell us how your faith is influencing how you see the political landscape and your political opinions now.
Well, I do a podcast every Monday and Friday, and I think I'm, unless you're a religious podcast, the only political analyst that ends every single podcast I do with prayer. And most of the time when I report, like today, my podcast was about this story breaking about Obama. And at the end of my podcast, I prayed for Obama and all the people that were involved and hoped that they would find Christ, that, they can be forgiven of their sins. They need to come up. And I thank the Lord for his guidance and his protection over me and my family and the people that I love and everyone that Christ puts that blanket coverage over. But for me, it was in the early 2000s. I was an Irish Catholic. I was an altar boy as a kid. So I was a Catholic. And as I read the Bible more, I didn't see Catholic written anywhere in the Bible. I saw there were Jews and there were Christians. And it said, verily, verily, I say unto thee, ye shall be born again. So it's talked about in the Bible that you must be born again. Not the first time, because that's as a child, you're not making that choice, but you must be born again. You must make the choice yourself to be baptized in water. And make the conscious decision that you are a born again Christian. That's in the Bible. So I took that very literally. It took me some time. My addiction was a problem for me. I felt that even though I had become born again, I wasn't able to get sober. And it wasn't until I turned that over to God and asked God, please help me. I need to stop doing this. And I did. November 22nd, 2006 is my sober date. Things have been going pretty well, but I live my life. I left LA and I went to upstate New York to be closer to my mom about 8 years ago. I spent 5 years in Syracuse, New York. Let me tell you something. You want to learn about life? Live in Syracuse, New York, man. It's brutal in the winter there. My mom passed away, and I came down to Atlanta with my 2 teenage daughters. There's a big chain of supermarkets here called Kroger. And I was walking down the aisle in Kroger, and this beautiful African-American princess started walking towards me. And I thought, wow, this girl is stunningly beautiful. And she walked by and didn't really give me the eye or anything. And I thought, yeah, she's way too young for me. And so I swung around a couple of aisles later, aisle 8, I'm coming down. She was walking at me. She looked right at me and she smiled. And I thought, maybe the old man still got it. What's up with that? That look she gave me was definitely a smile, So I kept going. I didn't really see her again. I checked out. And we have different versions of what occurred next. We like to tell each of our story. I'll have to have her on someday.
Yeah.
But anyway, what it boiled down to was I'm in this beautiful car that I borrowed from a friend, this $500,000 convertible Rolls Royce. She's in her little Mercedes. And in this giant parking lot, we're parked right next to each other. So she comes walking in, and I see her, and I go, okay, now I noticed you in aisle 4. I saw you smile at me in aisle 8. What are the odds that we're parked right next to each other and we're both checking out at the same time? So she said, pretty rare odds that we're right next to each other. And I said, okay, so are we supposed to meet? Are we supposed to like exchange numbers? And she goes, I think we're probably supposed to meet, but no, you cannot have my number. You can
Oh,
give me you can give me your
okay.
number. So my wife, who is a Notre Dame law school grad,
Wow.
she's an attorney here in Atlanta, and she wasn't leaving anytime soon. I directed the movie, which, by the way, I don't advise you to direct two of your brothers in the same movie because that took years off my life. It took years off. Telling Billy and Steven what to do
Yeah.
and listening to their constant time wasting nonsense while we were on set. They meant well. They were bringing their
Yeah.
creative stuff to it, but it was rough because it's not like a regular actor where you can just go, hey, just get over there and say the lines now. Then might have to,
Exactly.
well, you need to realize, remember we were in 4th grade? I told you. I'm like, oh my God, I wanted to blow my brains out most of the day. But anyway, I got through the movie. I fell in love with Deasia. We got married in a beautiful celebration in Italy, in this little town in Italy where I had shot a movie 30 years, 25 years ago, and they welcomed me back. And so many people, thousands of people showed up for the wedding. It was like really, literally like a princess kind of thing. And we have a son who's 2 years old, who I named after my brother Billy, William Bat Baldwin, and we call him Bat. And so we're here in Atlanta. I don't know how much longer we'll last in Atlanta. I've got one teenage daughter graduating next year and another one that becomes a sophomore. The sophomore, Finley, is like, let's go, let's move somewhere else. My senior daughter was like, if you move again now when I'm going to be a senior, I will kill you. So Deasia and I have decided to stay this year. And then we're looking back in New York. We're looking back on Long Island where I grew up. Long Island was an amazing experience for me. I have a New York speed and mentality to me. So that's home for me. I think I need to go home now. I'm 64. I'll be 65 next year. And it's time to go back to New York. And this, well, I think will be the first time I'm saying this in public. I probably will go back and run for office.
Oh,
Yeah.
really?
I'm so sick and tired of watching it.
Let's
and
go,
thinking,
Daniel.
And thinking I can't do something about it. I think if I go back to Massapequa among my people, I think I could find people that would back me, that believe in the things I believe in.
Yeah.
But I have an interesting technique I'm going to use.
Okay.
And so what I'm going to do is I'm going to ask the people what they want.
Yeah.
And then I'm going to write it down. And I'm going to look at how many people want this, how many people want that. And then I'm going to go ahead and lobby and fight for the things that my people in my arena or my sector or my county or whatever it is. And I don't know what level I'll do it. Will I try to come out the gate and go Congress right away? Or should I go for an assemblyman? I don't know. But I know one thing. I have a pretty good mind for it. I think I can rally people behind a good cause. And I think I'll speak for the people and be consistent and truthful about what I do. And I think that's what happens when you run for office. You're supposed to serve the people that voted for you. That's a great thing about what I love about Trump. He's doing everything he said he was going to do. If you don't like it, why'd you elect him? So there's a whole bunch of people that didn't vote for him that were Democrats, but they didn't win this time. So we've got this guy who's doing exactly what he said he was going to do. I'd like to be that guy. I'd like to go up there and use my energy to do something good for the people of Long Island. I would like to do that.
Well, I think people are really going to be about that. Thank you for dropping that nugget pre-announcement on my show. I hope we can talk more about it because I love that you're thinking that way. You know, as we have also this sort of resurgence of faithful people in our country and this desire to get back to biblical truth and our faithful roots, that people are really responding to that. And go figure that someone who would want to serve the people would actually want to hear from the people, right? I mean, that's exactly how it's supposed to be. So I love that you're saying that. Go forth. I support you 1,000% in that, and going home and serving the people of your community who raised you and you love and know so much about. I think that is Absolutely brilliant. I would talk to you all day. I really hope, Daniel, that you will come back on the show in the future and soon, because I want to talk to you about more things. But just leave us with one thing. Again, God has blessed your broken road, so to speak, right? You've been through it. You've lived a lot of life. You've overcome so many challenges. And in a different way, I think these younger generations now, they're struggling, right? We've got a lot of depressed people, a lot of, kids growing up feeling like, how are they ever going to find someone to marry? I mean, the grocery store is where it's at. I will tell you that. I love that you found Deja in the grocery store, because that one's always got good success. But what wisdom would you impart to Gen Z and these younger generations who are struggling and like, will I ever find someone? What is my purpose in life? And will I own a home? Will I have a career? I'd love to hear from you on that, in you giving them something that they can hold on to.
I'll give you two things. Number one, God doesn't make junk. God doesn't make any mistakes, ever, any mistakes. So wherever you're at, and I deal with I've done hundreds of interventions on young drug addicts and alcoholics, and I've always said to them, God loves you. God didn't make any mistake. You may have wandered off the path, or you may have had influences. There's lousy parents, and there's abuses, and but God still made a masterpiece in you. And you have to understand that value. You have to understand that you are a reflection of God's great work. So anything you do to yourself, any abuse, you feel bad about yourself, you're feeling bad about what God created. And God doesn't make mistakes. And the second thing that I'll give you that is the most important, this is the most important. Act as if God is standing right next to you in everything that you do. Every single choice you make, every word that comes out of your mouth, every action that you take that hurts only you or hurts someone else, or that's dishonest, or that's great, or that's of service, act as if God is standing right next to you, because he is. God is right next to you every second, every sleeping moment, every second of your life, God is there. So everything you do, God sees. Remember that.
Beautiful words and true words. Wow. Thank you. Thank you for leaving us with that.
Yes, ma'am.
All right. Well, I meant it. I hope you come back. I'm so grateful to you for sharing your thoughts and your wisdom with us today, Daniel. Thank you so much for being on the show with me.
Thank you for having me on. I look forward to coming back. Let's see what happens with Obama. I might be back soon.
I hope you will be. I am watching with bated breath.
Yes, ma'am.
Thank you, sir. Okay. And thank you all. God bless you and Deja and William and your whole family. Blessings on you all.
Thank you.
And thank you all for joining us on this episode of Politically Basic, where we break down the basics and let you decide. Make sure you're following us on all socials at Politically Basic, and check us out at politicallybasic.com for more. And we'll see you next time.